The Kings need any help they can get. That's why I found this in the closet, my Kings hoodie. Kings will let this thing get away from them. So now their series is knotted at 2-2. I don't know what they're going to do. I thought Jim Hillier made a terrible mistake in terms of allocation of players in the third period last night up in Edmonton. And then in overtime, he cut his rotation in half. He had 6 defensemen dressed. He went with only 4 defensemen in the third period, which meant those guys, it's like double shifting. Everybody plays for a minute to a minute 20 and comes off, but then they got to go back on rather than have 3 pairs rotate on defense. You only had 2. He did the exact same thing with his forwards. He played 2 lines of forwards. He didn't play the third or fourth line very much in the final period as Edmonton roared from behind. Now, when they got to overtime, he put everybody back on the ice, but by then they had already blown a 4-2 lead. By then, Edmonton had taken the momentum at home, and that arena is crazy. And they had the momentum, and they were just pumping shot after shot on Darcy Kemper. They got into overtime. Darcy Kemper made 20 saves in overtime. They couldn't get the puck out of the zone. They could hardly attack the other end. Edmonton wound up winning this game. That's back-to-back come-from-behind victories by the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton has outscored the Kings 13-5 in the third period and the overtimes of these playoff games. So now it's down to a best-of-3 series. The Kings are up. It's tied 2-2, but the Kings lost all the momentum. And you got a fatigued goaltender who just got pelted. Edmonton had 50 shots last night on goal. So I thought Jim Hillier made a terrible mistake there. So that's one item. Second item, speaking of problems, our old Canada network will probably want to join us from Winnipeg. The Jets, who had all these wins during the regular season, all of a sudden, Connor Hellebuck is really struggling and has gotten pulled 2 games in a row. The Jets were up on St. Louis 2-0. Went in, St. Louis beat him 2 straight, knocked Hellebuck out of the last 2 games. Series is going back to Winnipeg. The Jets, the question is, do they keep Hellebuck in as starting goaltender? Because he looks fatigued, and he looks like he's really starting to fight the puck. And the third one has to do with the Maple Leafs. They're in this life and death struggle with lowly Ottawa. The Ottawa Senators with almost an all-rookie lineup. Now, granted, the Leafs lead that series. I just don't understand Toronto. Best payroll, all these goal scorers, and all we get is these 1-goal games. And their goaltending, to me, is a little bit suspect, too, with the ex-San Diego Gull, Anthony Stolarz, who's become their starter. I just don't know how far Toronto is going to go. You look at their roster and you say, my God, how can it be they haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967? They've got the 60-goal scorer, Austin Matthews, and they got Nylander, who scored 45, and they got Mitch Marner, who's just a tremendous young star, and they got the great veteran John Tavares, and they're struggling. They've had 3 overtime games against the lowly Ottawa Senators they could have lost. Toronto is driving me out of my mind. So, you want to talk Kings puck? Go ahead and fire away.
Well, I mean, there's been so much sports on TV this weekend. I mean, I was wearing out my remote control, going baseball, NBA playoffs,
It's
NHL
called split
playoffs.
Screen, pal.
Yeah, it's even split screen. You got to have split brain to keep track of it all. I was watching that Kings game, and they had a comfortable lead, and I was like, all right, the Kings taking care of business, and then I find out they lost, and I couldn't believe it. So do you think the coach was playing not to lose? Was it like a prevent defense kind of thing?
Third period, they sat on the puck. All they're doing is to get it out. Edmonton, bring it in. We'll dump it back out. But the thing was, as the third period wore on, it was like the rink was tilted. Everything was going downhill into the Kings zone, and poor Darcy Kemper had so much traffic in front of him. He couldn't. The defense just ran out of gas because he was only playing 4 defensemen. He wasn't rotating 6. I just thought it was a terrible coaching mistake by Jim Hillier, and it let him back into the game. And the 2 goals came at the end of long flurries where the puck was in the Kings zone and they couldn't get it out. The next thing you know, the puck is in the slot, and Evan Bouchard, who's got a big slap shot from the point, he rockets 2 shots in traffic right by Kemper, who never saw him because there were so many people in front of him. So it's tough because they've led the Oilers. They've owned the Oilers for a whole bunch of these games, and yet the series is 2-2 going back to LA.
Yeah, we were talking about payback and receipts. We thought this is finally going to get over them.
Yeah.
And if the Oilers beat him this time, this would be awful.
And Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, they're on every other shift. And that work ethic of those guys and their ability to be able to produce and play as many minutes as they are, because they're like, I was critical of the Kings short shifting. The Oilers are doing the same thing. Oilers are playing two lines in the third period and overtime and totally dominating.
But they were playing from behind, so they were playing desperate, weren't they? I mean, so you got to stay aggressive even when you have a lead late. And by the way, with the Jets and the Leafs, those are the two teams you predicted for the finals.
Yeah.
And
Toronto is winning their series, but why is this such a struggle? And this Winnipeg thing is, I hate to think that Hellebuck has hit a wall, that he might be exhausted. He played 62 games during the season, but he's given up a lot of goals, and they've had to pull him the last two games in St. Louis because he was getting bombarded.
So what's the series score for the Jets series and the Maple Leaf series?
Maple Leafs lead 3-1. Every one has been a 1-goal game. Jets, Blues, 2-2 going back to Winnipeg.
And the Blues are like a 8 seed?
Yeah, they got into the play. Blues are red hot. Holy cow, they're playing out of their mind. And they got goal scorers, and they're just playing. And they got a hot goaltender, and that's got something to do with it. So
a Winnipeg fan is going to be crushed if they don't make it out of the first round.
Oh, exactly. I can't imagine what my guys at Winnipeg Sports Talk, what it's like up there. People just got to be freaked out. But they do have, it's a best of 3 series now, but 2 of the 3 are in Winnipeg.
Okay.
So see if they can gather it back. But what do? Do they pull Hellebuck or let him go back out there and hope they can win on home ice? A tough call. Okay, those are topics on the table.